Yucatan cenote crocodile attack. On March 14, 2017, Anthony Baker prepared for a dive in an unmarked cenote in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Anthony was 38 years old and had been cave diving for over 12 years. His dive buddy, Michael Torres, was 42 years old with similar experience. They carried twin tanks, primary and backup lights, and full cave diving equipment. The dive plan was to explore a newly discovered passage that local guides had mentioned. At 10:30 a.m., they entered the water. The cenote opening was approximately 30 foot wide with crystal clear water. Sunlight penetrated about 40 feet down, creating shimmering beams through the water column. They performed their final equipment checks and descended into the darkness. Water temperature was 77 degrees Fahrenheit, with visibility extending over 100 feet in most areas. For 45 minutes, the divers explored the main passage at depths varying from 60 to 90 feet. They laid a safety line as they ventured forward. As their air supply reached the planned turning point, they began their return journey. At the 15-foot safety stop, Anthony hovered near a partially submerged side chamber that was roughly 6 feet wide and 4 feet high. The attack happened without warning. A large American crocodile, approximately 13 feet long, lunged from the shadowed side chamber. Its powerful jaws clamped onto Anthony's torso with a force of over 3,000 pounds per square inch. The initial bite punctured his buoyancy control device, causing an immediate loss of buoyancy. Michael watched in horror as the massive reptile thrashed violently. In seconds, the crocodile dragged Anthony into a narrow restriction that was only about 3 feet wide. Silt erupted from the cave floor, reducing visibility to zero. Michael attempted to follow, but the passage narrowed to just 24 inches, too small for him to safely enter with equipment. He could hear Anthony's tanks scraping against the limestone walls. Michael surfaced immediately to get help. A rescue team arrived within 30 minutes, but recovery efforts were hampered by the restricted passage and near zero visibility. After 3 hours, they located Anthony's body wedged in a small chamber approximately 60 feet from the attack site. His primary regulator had been ripped from his mouth and his mask was missing. The autopsy confirmed Anthony had drowned while struggling with the crocodile. Bite marks on his torso had penetrated 4 inches deep, crushing 3 ribs and puncturing his left lung. DNA testing on the bite marks later identified the predator as a male American crocodile, estimated to be 25 years old. Midnight dive. Crocodile mistake. On July 8, 2017, Stefan Kohler entered Mexico's Sistema dos Ojos for a night dive. Stefan was 45 years old and an experienced technical diver from Germany with over 500 log dives. His dive buddy, Carla Mendez, was a 39-year-old local guide who had explored the system hundreds of times. They entered the water at 9:15 p.m., carrying twin 80 cubic foot tanks, primary LED lights rated for 30,000 lumens, and 2 backup lights each. The entrance pool was calm and measured about 25 feet across. Underwater, their powerful lights cut through the darkness, illuminating the crystal clear freshwater. The main passage was approximately 30 feet wide, with a ceiling height varying between 6 and 12 feet. Water temperature was 76 degrees Fahrenheit and visibility extended beyond their light beams. For 37 minutes, the dive progressed normally as they followed a well-marked main line through the system. At a depth of 48 feet, they reached a T-junction. Stefan signaled to Carla that he wanted to explore to the right. This was not part of their planned route. Carla signaled back with concern, but Stefan proceeded, apparently confident in his decision. The passage Stefan chose was unmarked and narrowed quickly to about 6 feet wide. After approximately 200 feet, the limestone ceiling dropped to just 4 feet high. The water clarity began to change, becoming brackish with a slight greenish tint. Small mangrove roots could be seen penetrating the cave ceiling. They had unwittingly entered a crocodile's hunting territory. Carla frantically signaled for them to turn back. As Stefan began to turn, his primary light beam caught 2 glowing eyes in a dark side tunnel just 12 feet away. Before he could react, a massive crocodile burst from the darkness. The reptile was approximately 14 feet long with a head nearly 2 feet wide. In one lightning-fast strike, its jaws clamped onto Stefan's face mask and regulator. The powerful bite instantly crushed Stefan's mask and severed his air supply. His backup regulator was tangled in the guideline. The crocodile thrashed violently, dragging Stefan into the side tunnel. Carla attempted to follow, but was forced back by the cloud of silt in the narrowing passage, which constricted to just 30 inches. A recovery team found Stefan's body 15 hours later, wedged in a feeding alcove approximately 30 feet inside the side tunnel. His equipment showed clear evidence of the violent attack. Both tanks were still half full at 1500 psi, indicating he had sufficient air before the attack. His dive computer showed the entire incident had lasted just 47 seconds. Last expedition. On September 3, 2019, James Cook set out to map a newly discovered section of the Catherine River cave system in Australia's Northern Territory. James was 34 years old and had been exploring caves professionally for over a decade. He carried a single 95 cubic foot tank, primary and backup lights, and a waterproof camera for documentation. The dry season had lowered water levels throughout the region, exposing cave passages that were normally submerged. James entered the cave at 2:15 p.m. through a narrow opening only 3 feet high and 4 feet wide. The entrance required him to crawl through dry sediment before reaching the first water-filled chamber. Air temperature inside the cave was 86 degrees Fahrenheit, with water temperature at 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility underwater varied between 3 and 8 feet due to suspended silt and organic matter. For the first hour, James methodically surveyed the main passage, taking measurements and photographs. He had progressed approximately 650 feet from the entrance when he encountered a partially submerged passage. The tunnel was roughly 5 feet wide but only 2.5 feet high, requiring James to keep his head just inches from the silty ceiling. Water depth in this section was about 4 feet. Unknown to James, a saltwater crocodile had retreated into the caves during the dry season. The reduced water levels in the river had forced the reptile to find deeper pools within the cave system. The 18-foot predator had been living in a chamber connected to the passage James was now traversing. As James squeezed through the tight section, his movements sent vibrations through the water. The crocodile detected the disturbance and moved silently toward the source. Just as James reached the halfway point of the 30-feet-long restriction, the massive predator lunged from a side opening that was barely visible in the murky water. The crocodile's jaws clamped onto James's torso with a force exceeding 3,700 pounds per square inch. The initial bite punctured his wetsuit and tank harness. In an instant, the powerful reptile dragged James underwater and into the darker recesses of the cave. His primary light, still functioning, illuminated a chaotic scene of bubbles and disturbed silt before being torn free. A search team found James's equipment scattered through 200 meters of twisting passages. His tank was discovered 85 feet from the attack site, with bite marks clearly visible on the valve assembly. His primary light was found 140 feet further in, still glowing dimly. After 3 days of searching, they located his shredded wetsuit in an underwater chamber that appeared to be the crocodile's feeding area. Wildlife officials later trapped and euthanized the crocodile. An examination of its stomach contents revealed James's waterproof camera and several personal items, confirming it was the same animal responsible for the attack. Fatal misjudgment. On June 12, 2018, Marcus Lowry arrived at Cuba's Cueva de los Peces with plans to photograph cave wildlife. Marcus was 29 years old and worked as a nature photographer from Tampa, Florida. He carried professional underwater camera equipment valued at over $5,000, including a high-definition camera with external lighting. The cave was a popular tourist spot, but Marcus had arranged special access to photograph during a quiet period. The entrance to the cave was a vertical shaft approximately 15 feet deep that opened into a series of interconnected chambers. Water temperature inside was 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and humidity reached nearly 100%. The main chamber measured roughly 60 feet across with a ceiling height of about 12 feet. Several smaller pools dotted the cave floor, ranging from 3 to 8 feet deep. Weak natural light filtered through cracks in the ceiling, creating eerie patterns on the water surface. Local guides had explicitly warned Marcus about a territorial male crocodile that inhabited the cave system. The reptile was well known to locals, who estimated it was approximately 12 feet long and had lived in the cave for at least 8 years. Despite these warnings, Marcus insisted on getting close-up footage. He told his guide he needed just 30 minutes alone to capture the perfect shots. Marcus moved carefully through the main chamber, setting up his equipment near a muddy pool in the darkened northern section of the cave. The pool was roughly 20 feet across and appeared to be about 6 feet deep in the center. The water was murky with visibility limited to about 2 feet. Marcus positioned himself just 4 feet from the water's edge and began to set up his tripod. The attack came without warning. The crocodile lunged from the muddy water with explosive force, covering the distance to Marcus in less than a second. Its powerful jaws clamped onto his right thigh with a bite force exceeding 3,500 pounds per square inch. Marcus screamed as the reptile performed a violent death roll, a natural predatory behavior designed to tear off chunks of flesh. The rotation shattered Marcus's femur and completely severed his femoral artery. Blood immediately began pumping from the catastrophic wound. The crocodile dragged Marcus partially into the water before retreating deeper into the pool. Marcus, still conscious, desperately tried to crawl away from the water's edge. His guide, who had been waiting at the cave entrance, heard the screams and rushed inside. He found Marcus just 10 feet from the pool, leaving a thick trail of blood behind him. Despite immediate pressure applied to the wound and frantic calls for emergency services, Marcus had already lost a critical amount of blood. By the time medical personnel arrived 27 minutes later, Marcus had bled out. His camera, recovered later, contained several clear images of the crocodile taken moments before the attack. If you want to see more videos like this, click the video on screen now and make sure to subscribe.